Empower 11, the best of its kind in a highly transformative time. Are you empowered? Ready to turn your life up to 11? Awaken the life of who you are on the inside to match the life you were meant to live on the outside. Empower 11. Now is your time.
Empower 11 Radio. Greetings and welcome to Empower 11 Radio. This is the live 1-hour radio show that we do every Wednesday. Today is November 1st, 2010, and it is 11 a.m. Pacific time. We are coming to you from Santa Barbara County, California, where it was another beautiful day. And for more information about Empower 11, be sure to check out empower11.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Empower11. By the way, Empower 11, it's EMPOWER, the number one. You're either listening to us live on Spreaker, which is the platform that we come to you on. You can check it out on the Spreaker website, or you can get the free app that you can download onto your iPhone or Android phone. If you're not listening to us live, chances are you're probably listening to us on iTunes, because all of our radio shows are podcasted onto iTunes. So you can subscribe to us on iTunes and make sure you get all the archive shows. Also, we have Empower Wealth album on iTunes that's available for purchase, so you can go and check that out. It's also available on Amazon. On Amazon, you can also get it physically sent to you if you like the CD form instead of the digital format. And then I always want to encourage our listeners to be in contact with us. You can contact us at info@empower11.com. My name is Jack Voorhees, and I am sitting next to my beautiful, happy, smiling, wonderful partner, Ann Ribley.
Hello there, Jack Voorhees. You look mighty fine yourself. I love doing the show with you. You are definitely a person who empowers happiness on the highest level, on 11 in my life, and I'm happy to be doing the show with you.
So we actually went and saw a speaker the other day. It was a really interesting talk. You want to tell us a little bit about that, Ann?
Yeah, it was Anita Moorjani, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, from Hay House. She's an author that Wayne Dyer helped bring into the publishing family of Hay House. And she is somebody who actually was diagnosed and was dying of stage 4B cancer. All the documents, all the medical records indicate and substantiate, and she was literally dying, and she died.
Yeah,
and all her organs were shutting down because she had cancer like just everywhere in her body. She had lesions, skin lesions all over the place, tumors all over the place.
Yeah, from her abdomen all the way up into her chest and heavily wrapped around her neck.
In her lymph system.
Yeah.
And she was diagnosed, and she spent 4 years, having chemo, and eventually she was dying. Her family was called in, and all her organs were shutting down. She was told that she would be dead within 36 hours. She went into a coma. And in that, when she died, she had what are they called near-death experiences, where she had the choice to come back to her body. And she experienced this
other realm, she called it, this this other place, and she said when she got there, she got this overwhelming sense of peace, and really that came from the connectiveness, that she was so connected with everybody who is alive or passed on, and she could instantly communicate like everything they needed to communicate through feelings. It was just like a knowing, and it was a great sense of peace to her, and she really liked this place. I mean, a place of peace and everything. But her family was telling her or communicating to her that she had more to do.
Her father, she actually communicated with her father, who had already passed on the other side, and he had said to her, "You have more to do here." But she didn't, and she almost felt like she had a choice to go back to her body or to move on. And she said that she did not want to come back to a body that was so broken down by cancer, but she knew she could bring this understanding. And what she talked about was an incredible unconditional love that existed on that other side, with no judgment whatsoever. There isn't this good or bad, right or wrong. There's only the effects of whether we're incongruent with the truth of who we are, or there's the effects of being out of alignment or incongruent. And that was what was interesting, is that is in alignment with, what we believe within Power 11, which is that oneness on the inside, getting in reports, that matching possibility with the world we're meant to experience on the outside, and getting that into where it actually becomes exponential in its quantum multiplying energy between who we are and the world around us.
What's interesting about her is her cancer was documented to be gone in 4 days. So she was 4 years since she had been diagnosed with this cancer, and have it develop and have it continuing to progress and get worse. And then within 4 days, she was completely cancer-free.
And she still is today. And what happened was, when she knew she had this choice to come back, she knew she could bring this understanding with her to heal her body, this love, this understanding and connectiveness with life. She did not have to be separate from it, outside of it. One of the big themes of her talk, which influenced us to want to talk about this topic, is she was talking about how important it is for us to be in a place of joy and happiness, and how that bears such a direct correlation to the state of our health, to the state of our peace in heart and mind, and in our experiences in life. And she couldn't emphasize it or use enough language to say that was the biggest thing she brought back, is how the power to get in alignment with joy and happiness.
And that's what our show is about today. Our show is about the title of our show is Empower Happiness. And when it breaks down, when you break it down to the simplest level, I mean, we all want to be happy. When you ask somebody what they want, they'll often tell you what is their immediate pressing need. But when you drill down, it basically comes down to this place of happiness.
Yeah, you would ask why. Why do you want that? Like, you want more money. Why do you want that? Well, I want to be able to have the money to, send my children to the finest educational institutions. And it's like, well, why do you want that? If you just kept drilling down, ultimately you would get down to that it's happiness. It's that fulfilling happiness that we're looking to experience in our world, even in relationships and with our family members and with our health and well-being. We just want that happiness. I mean, if we just took and asked ourselves these questions about, what areas of our lives are we not feeling that happiness in? And then I know a lot of people struggle with their bodies. They're not feeling happy with their state of health or their body. And even asking that questions, are you happy? How can you empower happiness? Just in that simplest form, we can begin to make some shifts in understanding.
When I first got into recovery, I thought that happiness was over, because the only way I knew how to get into a place of happiness, or it was basically through a trickery. It was into getting myself to have false feelings, through my drug and alcohol use. And when I went to my first meeting, I just thought, like, well, happiness was over. I was going to have to learn how to live drug-free, and I was certain I'd be miserable, but I knew I needed to quit using drugs and alcohol in order to stay alive, and be a father, and all the things that I'm supposed to be. I went to this meeting and everybody was laughing. It was like I was really kind of amazed. I mean, I looked around the room and everybody, I don't know what was going on that night, but everybody seemed in a really good mood, and they were laughing and joking, and it just seemed so foreign to me. Like, how do they do that? These guys aren't, there's no alcohol here, and yet these guys are happy, and it just seemed so foreign to me. It seemed like, I don't know, I can relate it to like those people that eat really well with chopsticks or can juggle really well, and it's like kind of like, how do you do that, So I actually got hope. I got this hope that actually I could not only quit using drugs and alcohol, but I could I could actually find some happiness. But it wasn't. I didn't find happiness right away. I mean, it was a very difficult time for me going through this. Trying to learn this new way of life and life skills and things like that. But I remember that summer that a bunch of us from recovery, I invited them up to a cottage up at Higgins Lake, Michigan, and we were out on the boat, and I was water skiing behind the boat, and I'm on one ski, I think at the time, and the girl who was driving just suddenly kind of switched directions. She just did this big, this quick sharp turn, and it just sent me flying around the outside of the boat. I mean, I was going way faster in the boat. I could feel centrifugal force in my face, peeling the skin back as I'm just flying. And then I look down and I see these ripples in the water, and I knew I was just going to bite it. And I did. And my ski came off, and I just skipped a bunch of times on top of the water until I finally came to this place of rest. And I remember all the people, the look on their faces when they were coming up on the boat. They're all standing up on the boat, all these people, and their eyes were so big, looking at me. And I was just laughing so hard. I was holding my belly. I could not stop laughing. And it was the first time I had experienced that real laughter, and I can't tell you how long. And it was such a liberating feeling to be in this place of just so much joy that you just cannot control it.
Oh, well, you've put me through that experience, Jack. Just the other day, I mean, I think to myself, gosh, now it's probably, I could count more than on two hands the amount of time he's put me in tears from laughing out of control with the things that he says. It is a great feeling. And what I want to talk about today is when we decided to do Empower Happiness, is that place in us where it's not this false situational experience of happiness, but it's a true resounding place that we begin to live with inside ourselves.
This happiness at the core of who you are. So it relates in every aspect of your life. I think many of us can agree that a little bit more happiness in our lives wouldn't hurt. And the thing is, there are areas of our lives that I'm sure right now, people are saying, well, this part of my life I'm happy with. This part of my life I'm okay with, and this part just totally sucks. And so this is how do you bring happiness to every area of your life? Because I have mentioned before, you lower the bar in any area of your life, and it affects every other area of your life. You can't just have one area of your life be crap and expect it not to affect the other areas of your life.
Well, that's where, when we were developing the show, we came up with actually a rating test that Jack and I did ourselves, and we invite you to do the same thing. We took on a scale of 1 to 11.
11.
And we rated the areas of our lives. Now, here's the key for this really having power. Because one of the areas that him and I talked about was the area of relationships. Well, there's like your core intimate partnering relationship that you have in life. And then there's the relationships that are with family members. There's the relationships that are with friends. There's the relationships that are with colleagues. And when him and I were discussing this, it's like if a relationship is, doesn't feel at the level it's capable of, but you're showing up with that empowered happiness for wherever it is, you can only measure it on your side of the fence. It's like if we're expecting someone else to show up in a way to make us feel empowered with happiness in this relationship, then again, we're placing our level of happiness outside of ourselves. So one of the key points that I want to talk about today is as we're discussing this topic of empowering happiness, it's really about your side of the fence. It's about what can you do regardless of how anywhere in the world is showing up around you. And, when we were discussing this, I thought about Nelson Mandela. And it's like, here he was a man that was in prison for 27 years. And regardless of what was going on around him, he was a happy, free, rich man, regardless of his external conditions. And when he came out of jail, that's exactly what he was to the world. And that's the place we're going to go inward to, that place where we can influence and begin to have rapport and create that empowered 11 state and that oneness.
Yeah, it's creating it from the inside and, owning it from the inside and not always looking for these external forces to make me happy, I could say, well, ice cream makes me happy because I love ice cream. That's just one of the things that, I just love it. It's just so damn good. But the thing is, if I don't have ice cream, I'm still happy.
Very good, Jack. We're having breakthroughs. I'm just kidding. No, you're a happy person. I said this to him when we were designing the show. I said I'm really lucky because I get to share, and I'm genuinely a happy person too. I get to share and partner in my life with a person who genuinely is happy, regardless of what's going on around.
I think part of the reason that, or maybe the reason that you're so happy is that you have such amount of love inside of you. You mean your love for life, your love for people. You have an abundance of love inside of you, and it makes you shine. You're always smiling, and you get those beautiful dimples.
He's making me do it now.
Yeah.
But yes, love is my religion.
Yeah. Although I noticed that people are saying that you're smiling more now than you used to.
Well, so now here's another, I want people to rate, just think about in your relationships, how would you rate them on a scale of 1 to 11? And then in your purpose in your career, how would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 11? Not with that the outside needs to show up different, but what you're bringing inside you to those areas of your life. Also
your finances and your health, the health of your body and your well-being, and also on a spiritual level, how would you rate yourself?
So then after Jack and I actually took this assessment ourselves, what was interesting is I said to him, who's the happiest person, one of the most happiest persons that you've known? And so we talked about that. And one of the answers that came up for me was my children when they were babies. And that's the thing that was said to me all the time was, God, Ann, you're smiling so much when I had my babies. Well, they were such beacons of light and happiness. You couldn't help but just smile back at them. Then my life went through such a hard configuration with business. I was running, multiple business that were, multi-million-dollar business, lots of responsibilities. I had these small babies, and I was married for over 18 years, and that wasn't working. And then I got into this groove where I felt like my life was really hard, and that's what started to. The thing that I could describe it wasn't like I lost my happiness, but it had felt like the volume was turned down to my happiness and my ease and ability to smile at my life. And this whole doing this topic makes me recall a story so at this time, my youngest was around 4, and I was, still with my former husband at that time, and we were at this restaurant that was down in LA, and it was like right in the heart of Hollywood, and it felt like in this restaurant that everybody was happy, everybody was talking about these great, awesome projects they were working on, everybody was glowing. This is how it felt to me in this restaurant. And I remember sitting there with, at that time with my former husband and our kids, and it having this heavy, miserable feeling to this configuration of wherever we were in our lives, and him and I not meshing. And I remember my 4-year-old, because they have a mind of their own, I remember him literally wanting to get up from our table to go sit with this other table of a group of people that looked like they were so happy and having such a good time. He literally was taking his silverware, his plate, taking everything, and he was going to go sit at another table. And it was like, no, you can't do that. You have to come back here. And so right after that, I saw, that's right after that is when the movie The Pursuit of Happiness came out. And that had a really profound effect on me. It had a profound effect because in that movie, the character that Will Smith plays, when he sees them on Wall Street, and they all looked happy to him. They all looked like they were just thriving and happy in their lives. And he said, that was his commitment to go get that happiness no matter what. And it just had this resounding effect to me because that is what I wanted in my life at that time when I saw that movie and stuff. And what was interesting is at the end of the movie of Pursuit of Happiness, when he does pass that exam and he does get into that financial firm, he says, I was happy, and it shows him out on the street. And I know at that time in my life, I really got in the business of becoming happy. And I became clear, focused on that happiness and getting in tune with that on the inside of me and going in that direction of being happy again and turning up the volume to my happiness. I became so clear in it that I started really getting into the business of following my dreams, following my writing pursuits and stuff. But honestly, at that time, I went through the separation and my divorce and, business cleanup. At that time, thinking about a relationship, I just kept thinking it seemed too hard for me to find the happiness with somebody because I felt like it so much depended on that whole interaction and collaboration to work to be happy. And it just seemed so far-fetched for me. So I stayed in the business of getting happy again with my children, in my life. It wasn't instant. It was a progress. It was being grateful for today, being in the moment of today. And what was interesting is then through the natural evolution and unfoldment in my pursuit of happiness is when, Jack and I started working together, and our whole relationship eventually evolved into what we became. And it was one day when now he was coming out here to stay with me in California, and we were actually organizing DVDs. And I can remember this distinctively. I was walking in the other room, and he picked up, so from when I saw the movie to like this moment, it's fast forward now a few years later. He picked up the movie Pursuit of Happiness, and he had it in his hand, and he said, how do you want me to categorize this movie? Because we were putting movies into categories. Yeah. And it stopped me in my tracks. It stopped me in my tracks because I thought, I am in that moment. I'm in that moment that I thought I would get to at the end of the movie, but I thought it was going to be more of a career place. And I'm in that moment of happiness. And I started getting choked up. I almost couldn't even tell Jack the story, but I was like, I am living that moment. But that moment that moment materialized itself, became a real dream unfolding, not from my head, but a state of being that I began to walk in the direction of.
I can definitely relate to that feeling that you must have had in the restaurant, because I recall being in group of people that are all at a party or something, and yet feeling so not happy and isolated from everyone, and I know that's I can really relate to that.
And I just want to say comment on that, Jack. And the thing is that I think where we get ourselves trapped into making a shift is we think that something on the outside needs to change. The people, our money, or whatever it is, our job needs to change. Then I will be happy. But it's whatever way that we're feeling isolated or it's this configuration of energy patterns that we've allowed to overlay itself into our lives in a certain configuration that has become our common experience that may not be serving us anymore. So how do we shift that? Well, how we shift it is we get into a healthier self-orientation with how do we feel. And she talked about that this Anita that we saw. She talked about this with this cancer. She felt off. Before she was ever diagnosed with cancer, she felt off in her life in ways that she was cared too much what people thought, was trying to comply too much with her career, and just out of balance in her own over trying to make it happen, trying to make people happy, trying to make it work at the expense of herself.
Yeah, she said she was being a doormat and whatnot. When you talk about the happiest person that we can recall, and for me it came this woman Sammy Erickson came up, and she was she's passed on now, but I remember her from my childhood, being up north at the cottage, and she was always so happy, it was in every cell of her being that she was just glowing with happiness, and she lived to she lived a long, wonderful life. She lived a long, healthy life.
Even active, you said, in her 90s.
Yeah. So the thing is, these people that have this happiness and joy, they tend to live longer because it's a healthier way of being.
Well, so this brings me back to when you said a lot of people say that I smile more again, that since our relationship has happened, and what it is it's like it just mirrors what's already in me. And that's when I had my small kids and they were babies, and their happiness, that was the thing everybody said, God, Ian, you're smiling so much since you've had your babies. But it's like, how could I not? It was that mirrored happiness was happening with my babies, and it's like now I'm in such a loving relationship that it's only mirroring what's already in me.
And my son too, he was so happy. As a child, the kid just laughed and laughed and laughed, and he was holding his belly all the time. Because he's laughing so hard. It was the joy that kids have, and then what happens? We get bogged down with responsibility and stuff like that. I think that we need to play more. I think that. We need to embrace it. The great thing about having children is that you get to play with them.
Right.
It causes you to play where otherwise you might not play.
Right.
And play is important.
Which, speaking of that, when you were talking about one of the happiest people that when Jack first started telling me the story of tell the story about the firecrackers. At first, I didn't realize this was an older woman. I thought this was like a kid you were playing with when you told me that story.
Yeah.
So you went down to her house and you had.
Yeah, I would think I was maybe 10 years old, maybe 11, something like that. And I went to the store and I bought some candy, and I also got some fireworks. I remember being surprised that they even sold them to me, and I had them in the bag, and I knew my mother wouldn't approve, So I went over to Sammy's cottage, and she was there, and I said, I got some fireworks, and she's like, let's light them. And I said, okay, should we, they were like in a strand. And I said, should we light them one at a time? And she's like, no, let's light them all at once.
I for sure thought this was a kid he was playing with when he was telling me the story, when he was telling me who this was.
So we lit them off and, threw them down and expected them to go pop, 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 pop. But they didn't. They were these spinners. And they just started spinning off in all these directions, and we're like dancing, jumping up with our feet and stuff as they're coming around us and stuff. And she was laughing so hard. It was just.
So she never forgot to learn to play and still play. I mean, so.
Oh yeah, she used to invite me over to play this game. She had this board with this little net, and you flick these little things, and yeah.
I know. And when he told me that she'd invite him over to play this game, it sounded like a kid game, not even like she invited me over to play Scrabble or something like that.
Yeah, she said, so you knew her as a child. And I said, yeah, I knew her. I was a child.
Right. It took me a while to figure out that he was talking about a grown person that he would go over and do these things with, and she was one of the happiest people.
A grandmother, yes. Yeah.
Well, so I remind my kids, as that nature of them starts to get changed through conditioning of the world and their experiences, I remind my kids, how happy you were? You'd light up the room. You would walk in. I remind them because that is their nature, because you can see that that's part of what happens is that some of the world can start to turn that down in them, but it's like I just want my kids to always remember how happy they came into this world and to keep that. So
Ann, let's talk about this conditioning that seems to happen. That you're trying to condition your kids to embrace this happiness and stuff, but others may tend to quit playing around, get serious. This conditioning, and Anita was talking about it, that we're supposed to sacrifice and we're supposed to give up and we're supposed to, go through all these things, but then we're supposed to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. But
we're supposed to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, and we haven't even learned how to love ourselves, is one of the things that she was talking about. And it's like, it's a fine line, and it's a dance, because, you don't want your children to lose who they are, just as the same as, in all of our journeys, is it's a rediscovering of the truth of who we are. And at the same breath, you don't want them to be selfish in a way that it's destructive, but you want them to be self-orientated in a way that's healthy to them. And even for ourselves, I mean, it's like, we can get so conditioned to place the priorities outside of ourselves to the point that we don't even know how to get back inside of our own lives again. One of the things that I've talked about, and it's the only way I know how to describe it, is when my life felt so out of balance with the businesses, with my marriage. And here I was at a time where there was a massive amount of money coming through my life. So it wasn't even like this idea, well, if I just had more money, it could solve all these problems. No, I just was in a place that I felt outside of my life. And what I did is I got back inside of my life. And that's what took time, and that's what took progression. But it took, progression to get to this place that it was rooted so deep in me that I would not sway, because I knew the truth. And what I did to get back inside my life is I started owning that place of healthy orientation to myself with happiness. I really did, in a way that I feel it. And so, I will
basically like taking responsibility for your own happiness.
Yeah,
and being that it wasn't going to be outside circumstances that was going to control your happiness.
And as I started taking that responsibility, it's easy to say that because it's easy to say those words, but to live those words. And this is what I was saying to Jack, is that when we know what we need to do, it's a step towards our happiness. But when we're in the active act of doing it, that's when we really fuel our happiness. If you know you need to work out to get better health, that's one thing. But when you begin doing it, it begins to activate this healthiness and happiness to body, self-love. That's one example.
Sure, and if you can do it in a way that actually makes you happy that you are working out.
Right.
Yeah, all the better. Right.
That's why, I'll do the treadmill and I'll watch Oprah or put on a show or watch Ellen, things that make me happy. Because then it's like it's an enjoyable experience.
So life is short. It's too short to go through life being miserable. It's too short to waste a lot of time being sad. And this part of this Anita thing that struck me. It was like, it was interesting. A lot of people are asking questions. They're asking about their past loved ones and stuff, and she said they are okay, they are good. That's what they would want us to know, that all is good, man.
That they're in a happy place,
right? And they don't want you to be unhappy.
That they've passed on.
Yeah, this grieving and stuff, and all this should almost be a celebration. And there are areas. I mean, some people have celebrations when people pass on.
It's funny because I was like,
it's not loss.
I was tapping Jack when they were saying it, because he says this all the time, is that, when he sees people get really stuck in their grieving, and not that there's any judgment or that it's bad, but he would say all the time, I really think that if we were to have a communication with our loved ones on the other side, they would want us to start becoming happy and not be in a sad grieving place. And Jack has said this over and over, that they're good. I bet you they're happy where they're at.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what she said.
Yeah, I think, I think Source wants us to be happier. Your higher power, your God, whatever it may be in your life. I mean, I think that, I really believe that truly, like, they would want happiness. Because happiness, where does it come from? I mean, happiness is this love condition. It's this love is like the highest vibrational energy, and of course we would want to be in that, because that's the place of creativity and inspiration.
It's funny, when I said that, Jack, you've made me cry at least more than what I can even count on two hands. From happiness, from making me laugh so hard, I can't even control myself. And then the kids even said it the other night at dinner. I was practically choking on my food. I was crying. He had me laughing so hard. They're like, Jack, you did it again. You got my mom in tears. But it's a happy thing in our home, because some of the things that are done in such comedic timing.
So our first family meeting that we had, basically we decided we were going to have a family meeting, and Anne agreed, yes, we should have a family meeting. So we all sat down at the table, and I said, kids, we're having this family meeting, but you don't really want to hear from me, so we brought somebody here to speak to you. And I'm going to go get him now.
And what did you do, Jack?
So
I didn't even know what he was doing.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, what is he doing?
So some of you might remember Chris Farley from Saturday Night Live, and he did this
character.
This motivational speaker guy, and he's a big fat guy. He said, I used to live in a van down by the river, or I live in a van down by the river. And so I went in the other room, and I stuffed pillows under my shirt and stuff. I think put glasses on, maybe a hat or something. And I came out there, and I did my best impression of
from that skit on Saturday Night Live. Because this motivational man on the Saturday Night Live skit was brought in to talk to a family about a family situation.
Yeah, so Anne was just in tears. And the kids never saw Saturday Night Live, never saw this guy, but they were just cracking up too. So it was a way to bring humor to the situation with, it was the first family meeting. I didn't want to make them all like think, oh, this is so terrible, we're having a family meeting.
Yeah, so, finding the way where it's really genuine in us, no matter what the circumstances is, to choose the happy versus the heavy and more of a misery kind of like approach which just turns down the volume, which turns down our choices. And when we can get into more of that easy, light, funny, happy, empowered happiness, it becomes contagious, and life starts to match up opportunities that come unexpectedly, that become miraculous. I mean, I look at my relationship with Jack. It's like,
it's very funny.
I just look at our relationship and how I couldn't even have planned this. And that's the other thing that, Anita, the speaker that we went and listened to, is that when she came back, what she knew is that her and her husband made a commitment to getting more into this congruence of what they'd love to do. And that meant for them at that time in their life, downsizing their house, downsizing some of their actual choices that they were making and where they lived. But they did it because they wanted to honor getting more in the business of what they were truly inspired to do. And she went on to talk about how she got this publishing deal from Hay House for her book and her story. And she said, I could have never planned it. I could have never planned it to come out so perfectly where they contacted her. And
Right.
It's like, that's kind of how I feel that happened with our love too, Jack, because it's like, I could never have planned it to how to find somebody such a great match. But I got in the business of empowering happiness into my life. And on that journey, our paths crossed.
Yeah, I mean, the divine. I mean, it's high vibrational stuff there. I wanted to mention, since we talked about health and living longer and stuff, many of you probably who are listening have seen the movie called The Secret. And there's a girl a woman in there that had breast cancer, and she was given this really bad news, unoperable and all this stuff, and she just kept saying that she's just not going to accept that, and she made some changes in her life. Her and her husband stopped watching the news, and they watched a comedy every night. And they would laugh and really enjoy that time that they had together. And she became healed, and she credits much of her being healed to this getting in this state of happiness.
Wow. So there's a lot of power in any areas of our lives right now. We can think about it. Like, go back to what did you rate? And think of the areas that need healing of happiness.
Right.
In your life, and how empowering happiness can begin to heal and facilitate and bring forth opportunities and the changes.
And happy people, I mean, just these great things happen to happy people because if you're happy, people are going to want to hang around you more. More people are going to be attracted to you. Happy people are lighter, they're funnier, and more opportunities just happen as a result of those, being in that state.
It's interesting. I was cleaning out some boxes that I had some books that were being stored, and I found old journals, and I even found the journal that I had at the time that something special was starting to happen between Jack and I. And it was interesting to read it because one of the things the theme in the very beginning is I kept saying, I don't know what's happening, but he's making me smile deep within me. I can just feel my whole body starting to smile again. I can feel. And it reminds me of how my oldest son has done child acting, and he's a SAG actor, and he's been out for movie parts, and he's been in some commercials, and he has this acting coach, and she would say to him all the time when a certain scene, whether it called to be scared or it called to, any kind of be upset or any kind of feeling, she would say to him, don't worry about what your face is doing, just get into the feeling and your face will follow. Is what she would say. And that's what happens with us. If we we empower happiness and we get into that feeling of it, our whole lives, our whole face, our whole vibration will begin to just follow it.
Yeah. So since we're doing this whole happiness and stuff thing, maybe you should tell us a joke, Ann.
Real funny there, Jack. I'd ask you to tell a joke, but he has a couple that I don't even know would be appropriate on the air.
Well, they're not that bad, but, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, there's probably a lot of people have heard the one about the Dalai Lama who went in to the pizza place and he asked the guy if he could make him one with everything. Yeah, okay. Wait, cue a laugh track. Where's the button?
Don't worry, you have me. My kids will say the same thing. Mom, you laugh at everything he says.
Yes, just keep that up. I need that. So part of the how we empower happiness is actually making the decision to be happy. That happiness is part of being happy is deciding to be happy. And I think I've told this story before, but there was this time when I was going through my transition. This was 3 years ago or so now. I found myself staring down at my feet, just miserable, just really just in a pretty miserable state. And I looked up, and I'm out on a boat on the sixth most beautiful lake in the world. I looked around at something like how beautiful it was. My son is at the end of the boat fishing, and I just thought, screw this. I'm not going to wait for X, Y, and Z to be happy. I'm going to start loving my life now. And I swear that when my feet hit land again, I was changed. And it was, and people could tell it in me, like, what's going on with you, or you look better, or whatever, but I became high vibrational and very attractive to, the universe really just seemed to start supporting me, because I was in such a place of, happiness, of love and grace.
Well, attractive, there's things on the outside in people that can have external attractiveness, but that fades. Energetic attractiveness, which you embody that, Jack, energetic attractiveness actually expands, and it becomes a highly powerful force. And so it's like, we've all experienced where you can see somebody who's physically attractive, but then you kind of hear them talk and you get their sense of who they are, and that attractiveness can diminish if they're not energetically attractive with how they're presenting themselves to the world. So this decision to love our lives, I mean, when you say it's highly vibrational, I mean, it is that energetic attractiveness. And when we get into that energetic attractiveness, we attract really high vibrational experiences, opportunities, and situations to us when we get into that energy.
Yeah, it's I'm at a loss for words for how important that it was, but and that and getting in an ownership position of that, like you talked about earlier. Another big for me, big key to happiness is acceptance. And the thing is, if we can decide or learn or just be in a place that we're not so affected by outside circumstances, because life has breadth, life has these ups and downs, life on life's terms, and outside forces are, they're going to be moving up and down, and somebody is going to be born today and somebody will die today, and somebody's, it's the happiest day of their life, and other people it's the worst day of their life, and that, things just happen. And if we're only happy when life circumstances are high, when we're being presented with, gifts or whatever, then there's going to be too much of the time where we'll be unhappy. And so by making the decision that and being in a place of acceptance causes us to be happy no matter what the outside conditions, what the world may throw at us.
And there's a lot of great spiritual teachers and leaders. I mean, this was a big, profound message that even Buddha, his message is that our suffering comes from not accepting what is. And that's a lot of what Eckhart Tolle's teachings were, is when we, like he gave the example recently on Oprah, is when you're stuck in the mud and you haven't accepted that you're stuck in the mud and you're mad that it is, but you haven't accepted it, it creates all this suffering. But if you can accept it, you can move out of your suffering because you've accepted this what it is, and now you influence the situation. And the reason why I wanted to point that out is because we can make this decision, and I've seen this too often too. I mean, this was a big thing I've just experienced with, my former husband, is that you can make this decision until life shows something that we don't like, and then all of a sudden we throw the decision out the window, or we get into a state that the external has all this power. And I know for me, when I empowered happiness, and I really got into that place, even when my marriage wasn't working and all the business and financial configurations were coming undone, I was so steadfast in my ability to stay in this good, happy place and move in the direction of what was truth and honesty to me, that I could have been amidst conditions and it was just a path I did not travel down anymore, even if other people around me were.
This getting in this place of gratitude can really start a transition from a place of maybe feeling stuck to a place of a place of happiness. And this gratitude, sometimes when I would feel miserable or something, my sponsor would tell me to write a gratitude list. And as I would write these pieces of gratitude, I would find that my attitude would change, towards how I felt about what my conditions were.
Well, I love how you say,
because just because you feel it doesn't make it so.
Yeah, and you would say, gratitude, grateful is great attitude, full of great. I mean, they're the yin and yang to each other for a balanced place to be.
Grateful is full of great, absolutely. And one of the things that I've used that have really helped me get into a place of happiness is by helping others. Sometimes we can be so self-involved that getting outside of ourselves can really help us get into a place of happiness. And happiness is meant to be shared. The happiness is it's contagious. You start laughing. You can come up to somebody just like you've just heard the funniest thing, and you're coming up and you're laughing and you can't get the words out, and the other person just starts cracking up, has no idea what they're laughing about, but they're just laughing because laughter and joy is contagious.
I remember one time recently when we played a family game, half of the table, it was CJ and I, my oldest, were laughing at something Jack said, and he was on the other side with Cody, and they didn't get why it was so funny. But he said something that had such comedic timing that him and I could not stop laughing. And they're all sitting there puzzled, like, what is so funny? Cody and him on the other side of the table. But before long, they were laughing with us because we could not control it. It is contagious like that.
A lot of this unhappiness, I think, in the world is caused by being bombarded with this information about horrific events, and often the news hypes that because they're all about getting the ratings. They're, however fair and objective they say they're going to be, they need ratings in order to survive. The more rating, it is a business, and always count on a business to do what's in the best interest of the business and their profits. So these this news, I mean, God, you could just freak out about everything. And it's like, look, I was never attacked by killer bees. I never got the bird flu. I never got the monkey thing, the mad cow, the whatever, all this stuff that they just bombard you with. I've gotten calls from people and from other states saying, "Oh my God, I hear your whole state's on fire." And it's like, well, I don't see any smoke anywhere. And it's like, well, maybe not all of it, but I hear like major fires. And it's like, well, yeah, that's just part of life. Every year we have fires, and that's part of the way that nature works.
I want to, we're gonna get ready to close out the show, but before we do, I just want to emphasize that one of the key things to empower happiness is there's the aspect of knowing what you got to do to begin to empower happiness, and then there's the active act of doing it. And those action steps is what's going to fuel the exponential growth of the empowered 11 state, where you're going to get oneness of who you are on the inside to begin to match in rising possibility with who you are on the outside. We've decided to close out today's show with the Empower Now.
Yeah, so we're going to go over a little bit in time. We always say it's a 1 hour show, but lately we've been going over a little bit. So maybe we should make it the 1 hour and 11 minute show. Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, I want to talk about this. Empower Now is a vibrationally powerful, inspirational track that Jack recorded that transfers that energy of real shift into a state of happiness, into empowering your nows. Wherever you're at right now, whether you're listening to this in your home, whether you're at work, whether you're driving in your car, right now, it's the most empowered moment you have, and this moment influences the next. And if you can breathe this in, this vibration of empowering your now with the highest vibration possible for you, transformation, miraculous, magnanimous transformation is waiting for you in the next moment. Stay in that moment of empowering your now.
Believe in yourself. You have everything you need. All the gifts and tools have been provided. Old, unhelpful patterns slip away and are being replaced by powerful new enlightenment. Let go of resistance and trust the process. All is being achieved with ease and flow. Magnificent forces are conspiring in your favor. Yes, the world is out to get you. Get you exactly where you desire to be. Your life is becoming more magnificent every day. Today, on this day, that is your day, you make your decision to take ownership of your life. For this is your day. Own it. This is your week. The best week of your life. Own it. This is your month. The most amazing month of your life. Own it. This is your year. The most incredible, abundant year of your life. Own it. This is your decade. The most outstanding, beautiful decade of your entire life, and you own it. This is your life, and you own every moment of it. You know your purpose. It is to follow Source. The voice deep from within you knows. The voice that for whatever reason has been quiet until now speaks up and guides you. Stand tall and walk with pride on this journey you have chosen. Be proud of who you are and where you are going. Being humble does not mean denying your greatness. This is your time to rise up and unleash the power inside of you. The floodgates are open, and nothing can prevent this mighty force Source has given you. It is on. Your creativity holds no bounds. Your ideas become things that are real, that are tangible, and that are alive. You live an intentional life by design. No one has the power to get you off your game. You own it. Those who are not traveling with the spirit that supports you will slip away, and you will bear them no ill will. Source is sending the right people into your life at the right time, and it's happening. All who are around you benefit. This is the time. This is your time, and your time is now. Believe in yourself. You have everything you need. All the gifts and tools have been provided. Claim it. Own it. Live it now.
Thank you for listening. I wrote that. It basically started as a letter that I wrote to myself during my big transition that I had a few years ago, and I basically was. I wrote a letter to myself. Nobody told me to do it. I just felt like compelled to do it, and I did it. And whenever I felt myself maybe kind of slipping or not being in this place of empowerment that I wanted to be, I would go back and read that letter, and it helped me. And I was really honored to hear feedback that it's helped others as well. So make sure if you would like to have that audio, it's available for free. You can go to Facebook and hit like, and you can get it for free. Yeah,
you can download it. As we close out the show, tomorrow being Thanksgiving, I want to give thanks for you giving your time, for being a part of this conversation. Whether you've communicated with us directly or not, I really appreciate our ability to share together.
Have an empowered week.